Welcome back to Chainsaw Man Reviews, where every week we take a closer look at the newest chapter of Tastuki Fujimoto's masterpiece, Chainsaw Man. This week we are taking a closer look at Chainsaw Man Part 2, Chapter 6, or Chapter 103. Good to see you all again, and I just want to thank you for all the support the recent videos I've been getting. I'm glad that you all are enjoying them, and I will continue to grow and learn to make these videos better for you guys. In terms of Chainsaw Man news, there was a fair amount this week. In an interview with IGN France, Studio Mappa, the people who are animating Chainsaw Man, said that they want to animate all of Fujimoto's works after Chainsaw Man. I think that this would work since Fujimoto has a series of very good and popular one-shots that would make very good movies or short films. There's also Fire Punch, Fujimoto's first manga series, that would definitely work well in anime format. In other news, there was an unofficial statue of Anya from Spy X Family holding Bochita, which looks kinda cool. It's not super expensive, only really send you back $80 US. It's from the same people who did the Tifa from Final Fantasy VII Jacopo statue, so there's that. Just before the chapter went up, there was a new cover of Switch magazine featuring this sick illustration of Denji by Mappa. Last but not least, it seems that Chainsaw Man is entering a bi-weekly schedule since this has been the case for the past two chapters and the upcoming chapter. Though it could just be Fujimoto is busy because he said that was the reason that the chapters were a little bit later. But I think that he might be setting up for a bi-weekly schedule, but there isn't really any official confirmation. Also, the physical edition of Look Back, one of Fujimoto's more recent one-shots, gets released physically here in the US on the 20th of September, with pre-orders up right now. Anyways, let's get into the recap. 2 weeks ago, Denji made his reappearance, saving Mitaka and Yuko from the Cockroach Devil. It seems that this chapter takes place the day after Denji's fight, as a newswoman recounts the events. We see a bunch of people wearing Chainsaw Man merchandise, such as t-shirts and masks. There's a blimp above the city that says, "Chainsaw Man is a man-eating devil." It seems that there's a group of people who don't like Chainsaw Man, so much so that they advertise it on a blimp. This is probably the group that the speaker on the street we saw in Chapter 101 belonged to. A reporter for the news station interviews locals about their thoughts on Chainsaw Man after his recent fight. There are mixed feelings, to say the best. Some people like him, some don't, but a lot of people seem to love him, including a girl who says that if Chainsaw Man's watching this, he should give her his number. There's a girl who says that her entire class is obsessed with him. Some guy who just says Chainsaw Man rules, and another one says that he doesn't exist and he's American propaganda. This marks the first time we've seen Denji outside of his devil form in Part 2, and I might just be eating my words on my prediction that Denji wouldn't stay here permanently until around Chapter 115. My guess is that we'll flop between Mitaka and Denji as time goes on, so in a few chapters we might go back to Mitaka. Back on track, Denji obviously has a very high opinion of himself, calling his chainsaws gore-tastic. He also says, by the way, just my guess, Chainsaw Man's phone number is... and then he says his entire phone number. The news people tell Denji that he can't say his phone number on the news, and they decide just to cut him out. The reporter lines up with a bunch of other girls, saying that to close out their program, they should all chant Chainsaw Man. As they do, Denji is approached by a familiar face, Yoshida, the octopus guy from Part 1, who is a part of Mitaka's devil hunting trio. Denji doesn't remember him, and Yoshida tries to remind him by saying, "You remember, when you had all those assassins after you?" Denji stares blankly at Yoshida, replying that never happened. This is interesting. It makes sense that Denji doesn't remember Yoshida. The dude probably only remembers what he ate for breakfast. But the fact that he says that the International Assassin arc never happened, now that's interesting. He could just be trying to be secretive, since in his eyes, Yoshida could be a bad guy. He could just be trying to be secretive, since in his eyes, Yoshida could be a bad guy. But we later learn that this most likely isn't the case. What if Denji's way of coping with past trauma is just pretending like it never happened? Pretending that he hadn't watched his entire family die right in front of him. Pretending that he is the superhero who fights devils, with his secret identity being just a normal high school kid. It would make sense since this is what happened to him when he was a kid. When he was 8, his dad was drunk and tried to attack him, and unfortunately, Denji had to kill him in self-defense. The Yakuza made up the story saying that his dad killed himself so that they could shift the debt onto Denji. Denji convinced himself that this is what had happened, since it would be easier for him to cope that way. What if he's trying to convince himself that the events of Part 1 never happened? I might just be reading too far into it, but it's possible. Back on track, Yoshida took Denji to a cafe to chat, saying that he'd foot the bill. So Denji decides to splurge, ordering a crazy amount of food. While Denji stuffs his face, Yoshida tells Denji that he's been looking for him, hence why he goes to his school. Apparently he belongs to an organization, but swears that they're not an evil organization, just like in some manga. His words, not mine. He also says that they just want Denji to live a peaceful life, while Denji tries to pronounce caramel. They know that if Denji continues to act like a superhero, then eventually somebody is going to find out about his secret identity, meaning that his life won't be so peaceful anymore. So they want to stop Denji from using his double form altogether. He doesn't really seem to care, since A, he has an entire cake in front of him, and B, he tells Yoshida that the reason he fights is because he wants people to find out about his secret identity. Yoshida is in shock, and tries to comprehend what he just said. After a minute, he just asks, "Why?" Denji replies, "'Cause once my secret's out, the ladies will be all over me." Yoshida, again, speechless, tries to start a sentence, but he and Denji just sit there in silence. Okay, a lot to unpack here. It seems that Denji isn't working for anybody. I didn't expect him to be working for the Devil Hunter Association since they're probably all but disbanded now, but maybe Kishibe had put something else together. A group of people he trusted like Denji and Yoshida. But I don't know where Kishibe is, or what he's doing. But I thought he would have at least had some interest in Denji's whole superhero thing, but I guess not. Also, who is this organization that Yoshida is working for? They sound like the bad guys. They probably are going to be the bad guys. The only thing that tells me that they aren't is that Yoshida is a part of them, and Yoshida seems like a good guy. We know of other organizations that wanted Denji, like all the countries that hired other assassins to get him. Most likely this organization wants to keep Denji out of the hands of these other countries, while letting him live a normal life. It's kinda hard to do that, when Denji makes the news almost every single day and is deliberately trying to get caught. I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't really know what they're gonna do now, but we'll have to wait and see. As for Denji, I think that right now, his head isn't in a very good space. He has to know that if he's found out, he can't just live the lifestyle of a playboy millionaire. I guess that deep down he knows this, but he has convinced himself that everything will be how he wants it to. This was a very interesting chapter with a lot of character info about Denji. It was a good chapter though, and it will keep me wondering for a little while. One thing I'm curious about is where Nayuta is in all this. We know that Denji and her will almost have a father-daughter bond to them, but I expected that kind of thing to already have started, but it seems that will be something that we'll be exploring in part 2. Well, that about does it for this chapter. Again, thanks for all the recent support, and I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Have a good one.